Well, Arkansas men's basketball continued to struggle in SEC play, all the while the women's team is finding success without one of its key players. Plus, Arkansas Gymnastics is back and had a fantastic opening meet this past weekend against Georgia. We'll talk all about that on today's episode.
You hear that? You hear that? That's special. There's a lot of lions, tigers, and bears, but they ain't but one razorback.
Madden for maybe the win. I think he just made SportsCenter again.
Arkansas is in hog heaven. They won the first ever national championship.
All I want you to do tonight is play your best. Don't worry about making a mistake. You can make a mistake, that's fine, as long as you're going 100 miles an hour.
Welcome in to episode 61 of the Woo Pig Weekly Podcast. Episode 61 is brought to you by Homefield, home of premium vintage collegiate apparel. So go check them out today. Use Variety Sports in all caps, receive 15% off that first order. Go check them out. They got fantastic stuff. We say it week in, week out. So go check them out and get you your new favorite Razorback shirt for this upcoming season. And before we get started here, I mentioned it over the past couple weeks, that big show coming up. So, that time's here. So we're going to go ahead and announce that Seth and I will this upcoming weekend are going to be doing a live baseball preview show in front of Baum Stadium this weekend, and we're going to have a special guest. Not going to reveal that just yet, but we'll be live down in front of Baum. It is going to be a little frigid, but we're going to be out there. We're going to make the best of it, and we're going to bring you a good preview of this year's baseball team and what kind of expectations should be and what we're excited to see. So that'll be fantastic. I'll have a link out later this week for that live channel and everything, and we'll have more information coming out as we go. But we'll dive into Arkansas football news. Not much going on this past weekend, where the previous weekend was full of transfer commits. This weekend we had a couple, not huge big names, but the two that we want to mention. Offensive lineman Timothy Don is transferring over from Baylor. He's going to be taking a preferred walk-on spot. He played under Coach Mateos. The big thing about him, he is an Arkansas kid. He is from Camden Fairview, was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. He's played a little bit at center, but he comes in at 6'2", 306. Not a ton of playing time at Baylor, so interested to see how he comes in and can compete for a spot. I'm not going to turn any lineman away that wants to come in and, prove themselves, if you will. And I know with the staff we got between Coach Pittman and Coach Mateos, if anybody can grow and learn and fight for some playing time, those are the two coaches that I'd want to have along the way.
Yeah, it's always good to add some extra depth there. I think they're still trying to go out and get even more if they can to fill a couple more spots. It's just we had such a struggle there this past season that I think they're trying to address it, kind of by volume. Very similar to how we addressed kind of our cornerback position last year, and that seemed to have a lot of success. So bringing some guys in, they've got a lot of talent, got a lot of competitive spirit, going to bring some competition to, who's going to earn those starting roles and what's going to be the rotation, and maybe just have overall a little bit more depth in there just to kind of keep guys fresher later in games if need be, things of that nature. It's going to be nice. So I've liked what I've seen so far. No big splash transfers necessarily. A couple of good players like Addison Nichols, I think he's going to be a good fit where we're going to be able to get him more playing time. And I think he's a caliber of a player that's going to be able to come in and have an instant impact. Some guys like that, obviously, Keyshawn Blackstock from Michigan State. Yeah, those are going to be, those instant impact guys, but then having some extra depth and some extra competition for everyone to kind of improve is going to be a good thing and is desperately needed. So excited to see another name on that list and hoping we get maybe one or two more.
Yeah, very true. Another guy that's coming in is going to bring help in the secondary. As we are losing some guys. We're going to be young in that area. We brought in a safety, Miguel Mitchell from Florida. A guy coming in has SEC experienced. He's 6'1", 215, like we mentioned with the guy last week from South Alabama with Marquise Robinson. He's a bigger defensive back that can come in and play really well against these SEC wide receivers. If you look at his stats in 2023, he had 37 total tackles, with 19 of those being solo, 1 interception, and 2 pass deflections. So another guy that's going to come in, have 1 to 2 years of eligibility left. and be able to hopefully give us some good minutes or be a good rotational player, depending on if we do a similar style secondary as we did this year. We're rotating guys in and out based on matchups and whatnot. So I think this is another good pickup by the Hogs.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was excited to see him jump in. I'm not 100% sure, kind of the way that defensive back end is going to look. You're going to have some new faces back there. So where your strengths and your weaknesses are, you're going to try to scheme around that, I'm sure. So we'll kind of see where everybody's shoes fit on the field, if that makes sense. And then adding depth is another one of those things that was critical for our defense this past year to make the improvements that they did. So kind of continuing that same pattern, I think, is a good thing for us. So definitely was excited to see this one as well.
Yeah. And then a few other little notes and news regarding football is Arkansas wide receiver Bryce Stevens has withdrawn his name from the portal and will return to Arkansas. He's a guy that I think we saw at the beginning of last season have some optimism that he was going to get a lot more playing time this year. Had a big catch in that first game. The previous season we saw some ups and some sparks of potential there. And so with him coming back, I'm sure he probably sees opportunity with the Petrino offense coming in, how he likes to use a high flying attack. So could have drawn him back into really wanting to come back and stay with Arkansas. And then another note, wide receiver Isaiah Satania announced that he was going to stop doing dual sports and football and track and is going to put all of his focus on the football field and the gridiron. So he will not be running track for Arkansas anymore, but I think he sees a prime opportunity, like we said, with Petrino and the type of offense he likes to run, to come in here and focus on football. We were talking before the show, this might be a kind of a thing where he can come in and maybe put on some more weight and muscle and kind of get a little bit bigger to really compete in the SEC and things of that nature. So do you think that could be an impact for his playing time and what he does for Arkansas next season?
Well, yeah, I think it's twofold. I definitely think there's probably the intent to maybe gain a nothing crazy, but maybe 5 to 10 more pounds of muscle. You don't want to lose the speed. That's one of the biggest attributes that he's got. But get a little thicker, maybe just a little bit stronger, be able to break some tackles and things like that from time to time, and then be able to go up and compete on some of those kind of jump ball scenarios. He's not a very, very tall guy, but he's got the speed to kind of get downfield where you just kind of want to give him an opportunity. So hand strength and arm strength, things like that can come into play there. So I think that's going to be one side of it. But then realistically, just from our understanding, from talking to Javante Herndon and knowing how the Bobby Petrino offense works, there's a lot of time investment that goes into the mental aspect of the game there with Petrino. You got to study a lot of the offensive playbooks. You got to be well versed to where you're not going to be making mental mistakes. I think that's kind of the number one thing that I expect to see some improvement on from the previous regimes to now. I'm kind of getting back to the way Bobby Petrino ran things, where they're taking tests before every game to see who has the most well-versed knowledge of the offense and things like that. So if you're kind of one of those guys that's on the fringe of playing time, that's how you earn it, not necessarily just your athletic ability. You're tried and true starters, yeah, they're going to play, but then outside of that, you're going to have guys that are going to be competing for playing time, and a lot of it's going to be how well you know the game. And him not running track and kind of splitting time and things of that nature, I think it gives him an avenue to devote all of his physical investments and all of his mental investments, both kind of into the football program. And I think that'll do wonders for him. So I'm excited to hear about that. I think it comes at the right time for him to kind of take that next step. And that's definitely something that we're going to need from him. So definitely an exciting thing. I think he probably was able to complete kind of what he wanted to in the track side of the world, and thinks it's time to kind of set that focus on maybe making the leap and getting to the NFL potentially at the end of it all. So I'm sure that there's some thoughts there in the back of his mind that's kind of leading to that decision.
Yeah, got to be definitely. But like we said, glad to hear that focus, to have guys want to come in. I think I've seen, with the guys that we've talked to coming in and a few of the guys on the team that we've talked to returning, there's a lot of focus on really just coming in and working hard this off season. And I think that's fantastic to hear. These guys are all excited to come in, work hard. They realized this year wasn't up to what we expected, or kind of even what they expected of themselves. And for those guys coming in, they kind of just want to work hard coming from where they were and do the best they can here. You heard Addison on what he wanted to do while he was here. And if you haven't checked out that Hog Talk segment, go check it out. But it's great stuff from him. But he really kind of exemplifies what these guys coming in are wanting to do, really work hard, come in knowing that nothing's guaranteed, but just come in and put in the work and just try to get better every day. And so as we wrap up our football news, we'll take a quick break here and we'll be back with Arkansas basketball news.
You know what I like? I like to be comfortable. I also love representing my favorite sports teams. And in the Clutch, I am able to have the best of both worlds. In the Clutch Apparel is your one-stop shop for all things sports. They have officially licensed gear from all your favorite teams and players from the NHL, MLB, NFL, and more. They have sports classic tees from yesteryear and beyond. Check out their full website in the link down below. When you enter the promo code Variety Sports, you get 10% off everything site-wide. Feel comfortable with your sports apparel and go over to their website now at intheclutch.com. And don't forget to use our code Variety Sports to get 10% off.
All right, we are back now, and man, this is not the news that we wanted to be able to share with you guys, hoping we would get a victory or two on the road, but that wasn't the case for Arkansas as they had their 2-game road stretch as they went to Georgia and to Florida. Didn't come back home. They stayed on the road after that matchup against Georgia. But unfortunately, in that matchup against Georgia, they fell 76-66. It was a close game there at the end. We were fighting back. At least a few players were fighting, really trying to take it upon themselves to help Arkansas get a win there. And it got really close there the last 4 to 5 minutes of that game. And then those last 2 to minute and a half, really Georgia kind of sealed the deal. Leading scorers for Arkansas was Tremont Mark with 24. Trevor Brazile and Jalen Graham tied with 9 points. And then Mekhi Mitchell, Devo Davis, and Jeremiah Davenport all having 7. You look at the rebounding side of things, Tremont Mark had 7. Brazile, Mekhi Mitchell, and Devo all had 6. So still, I think that's one thing that Arkansas is struggling with is getting the boards. They're not rebounding as well as they need to against some of these physical SEC teams. Shooting-wise, Arkansas shot 40% from the field, so not terrible, going 24 of 60. 14% from three-point range, only making 3 out of their 21 that they shot. So you'd like to see a higher percentage there. And then from the free throw line, 68.2%, going 15 of 22. Again, you'd like to see that percent in the mid-70s to even compete. If you add 5-6 more free throws, you're looking at an even closer game than just a 10-point game that we had. So initial thoughts here on this loss on the road against Georgia?
Yeah, this was a tough one. We got down. I liked seeing the heart that we had in the latter few minutes of the game. I think we were down 15 at one point, something along those lines. It was very close to that, and brought it back to within 4. And then it kind of ballooned back out there just in the last couple of minutes of the game that we just missed a couple of shots. Had some questionable shot selection, I think, in those last few minutes. I think we were shooting more threes late in the game to try to surmount the lead than we should have been, where we were having a little success in the paint. But I think we had 3 straight possessions where we bricked threes back to back to back on those possessions, and that allowed Georgia to kind of stretch the lead back out. But anyways, all in all, they did play hard in this game. I don't want to knock their effort in this game. There was some struggles early. They stuck it out. Tremont Mark especially kind of put the team on his back in the second half. I think he only had 6 points at the end of the first half, and so quite a bit of his points came in the second half there. So he was doing everything he could. He had a lot of good isolation plays, and I thought he actually passed the ball fairly well, hit a couple guys on some open shots. But overall, just the lack of the ability to hit a few more threes and the couple of missed free throws, if you could make, half of those misses and get 4 or 5 more out of those free throws and then make 2, 3, 4 more threes to get that percentage kind of to what they've been averaging around 30. I think this game would have been one that came down to the wire legitimately, and we could have stole a win, but didn't happen. Got a lot of things to improve on. I think shot selection is one of them, and then defense is. We've been talking about that since game 3. I mean, really. So I think the defensive side of things, it just seems like we struggle. We have a couple of good possessions, then a couple of bad possessions where we're out of sync. Where communication's not what it should be. We're out of position. And I think some of that may come down to the fact that Musselman is trying still to kind of figure out who he wants to play when and where and things of that nature. So they don't just have 7 or 8 guys that are kind of learning to play with each other. It is 10 guys that are trying to kind of figure out where they fit, the minutes that they need, and things of that nature. So tough game, tough loss on the road, and we'll cover it in a minute. But it was especially tough to kind of follow it back up with another loss. So we're definitely a skid right now, and some things are going to have to get figured out pretty quick, or we're gonna we're gonna be in store for a pretty long season.
Yeah, that's true. And like Seth said, we'll cover it more in a minute in the Florida loss, but we'll jump over to Arkansas women's basketball, where they had that big one against Georgia, turned around, had a really close game with Mississippi State on January 11th, where they lost that one 66-63, so a 3-point loss. They were in this game the whole time. Leading scorers for Arkansas were Miriam Dowda with 17 points, followed by Samara Spencer with 13 and Carly Keats with 12. Leading rebounders for Arkansas was Miriam Dowda with 13, so she got herself a nice double-double in this game, followed by Sailor Poffenbarg with 7 rebounds and Michaela Daniels with 6. Shooting-wise, Arkansas shot 30.9%, going 21 of 68 from the field, shooting 26.3% from three-point range, going 10 of 38, and then 91.7% from the free throw line, going 11 of 12. I like to see that number. And, they were in this one, and I think this is where just a few plays made the difference. But you see, as far as stats and stuff, we're still missing Talia Scott with that back issue that she suffered. So not sure what the timetable is as far as when we get her back, but it's nice to see people stepping up to help keep Arkansas in these games. When your leading scorer falls, you see other people stepping up. A name that has, been floating around more often since Talia Scott's been out is Carly Keats. She's been stepping up and hitting some more big shots, especially when it comes from the 3-ball. And so I think this team is, like we said, continuing to grow and figuring out themselves, especially in a situation where you don't have your leading scorer. And I think this team is going to continue to improve. And then when Talia Scott gets back, I think it's just going to prove even better for this team.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, this is a tough loss just to lose a close one like that when it seemed like things were kind of going our way in portions of this game. Miriam Dowd has been balling out. She's really making a name for herself on the boards now alongside Sailor Poffenbarger. So having kind of the Twin Towers down there ripping everything down is very beneficial for us. And it just, unfortunately, the ball bounced kind of not our way there in the last couple of possessions of this game to make it an unfortunate loss. But to your point, staying in a game without your leading scorer and giving yourself an opportunity to win is about all you can ask for. The close losses like that, they sting a lot, but at least you know that you're where you need to be from a program level, and that you're always going to have an opportunity to win those games, and that's about all you can ask for. Sometimes the shots fall and you get the win, and sometimes they don't and you don't. But it sure is nice to see close games and not get beat by 10, 12, where that there's a systemic problem that, hey, we're not at the same competitive level as like the rest of the SEC, for example. So women's basketball team's been doing a really bang-up job so far, in my opinion, even on situations like this where it's a close loss.
Yeah, that's true. And then as we look back over the men's team, they stayed on the road, went down to Florida, played on the road on the 13th. Lost in this game 90-68, so still not a great game. There's still issues. I think the main issues that we're seeing is defensively. Hit these stats real quick. Leading scorers for Arkansas on this one, Layden Blocker, a name you haven't heard in a few games, just with the arrival of Minifield. He's kind of lost some minutes there, but really played a big role in this game in that second half. Really, he led all scorers with 14 points. You had Jeremiah Davenport with 13 points, and then Tremont Mark and Joseph Pena with 12 points each. On the rebounding side of things, leading rebounders for Arkansas, Trevor Brazil with 7, Graham with 5, Makai Mitchell, Tremont Mark, and Layden Blocker all with 4. And then shooting-wise, Arkansas shot 37.7% from the field, going to 23 of 61, 33% from the three-point range. So better three-point shooting in this game. They hit 5 out of 15. And then 68% from the free throw line, going 17 of 25. So still would like to see those free throw numbers better. But in this game, didn't see a ton of improvement or difference from that Georgia loss. You saw a few different guys get in the rotation this game, and I think that's purely just from an effort standpoint of, guys are getting put in because they want to play and they're going to give 110%. So thoughts on this one with seeing those different names such as Layden Blocker and Joseph Pinion in the game and getting some decent amount of scoring in this game?
Yeah, a part of it was score related when they came in, but a lot of it, to your point, was you weren't getting the effort on the defensive side of things is just not there. I don't really know how else to put it other than that. If I can be so blunt, but they came in, had some good minutes, got turned around a few times, on defense. Joseph Pinion still kind of sometimes a liability on the defensive side of things, but he hit a couple of big shots and provided a little bit of spark, and they actually made a run to kind of, I'm not going to say close the gap, but bring it back within 10. It early in the first half, it had ballooned to, like an 18-point lead at one point. But so they had kind of tried to fight back where they could. It was just kind of an insurmountable task. And then late in the game, it ballooned back out again. Just not enough shots were going in. We weren't actually getting as many shots as normal either. Only taking 15 threes is a little bit uncharacteristic for us. We normally are kind of closer to that 20 mark. Shooting a better percentage is nice and all, but if you're only shooting 15, it doesn't matter as much if the percentage is better. And then also struggling at the free throw line is something that's, I think, just going to be a staple for us. We might have a good night here and there, but I don't think you're going to see the consistency there like we need. But you can survive games when you're only shooting 68% from the free throw line if you're playing better defense. You look at the years past, and the thing that I'm not seeing this year, one of the biggest things that sticks out at least is we're not doing a very good job on forcing turnovers or forcing bad shots early in a shot clock or something, things like that, where you kind of get a guy trapped and he's just got to throw something up or have a turnover there. We're not able to kind of get out and transition very well because we're not creating those turnovers and those bounced off, long rebound type scenarios. And it's affected our offense as well because you look back at years past, that was where, a quarter of our points every game came from was turnovers that turned into offense kind of situations. And we're not getting that this year. So with that being gone, you're having to play a lot more half court offense, and I think that's something that this team struggles with. And so you're kind of hurting yourself twofold there, where you're not playing the best defense, and then that's affecting your offensive side of the ball. And I know that's basic basketball IQ, right there, but that's what's happening right now. So we've got to get a little bit more effort on ball, and then I think we've just got to do a better job of understanding where we need to rotate to. You're not seeing as many guys, kind of break on those passing lanes like we've seen in years past and get some kind of runaway steals. It's just not there like it used to be. So some things have got to be adjusted. We're shooting the ball at a well enough percentage as far as that goes to win games. We're just allowing 90 points a game. So there's going to have to be some serious improvement on the defensive side of things before I think the offense will be able to flourish, because that's Musselman-based teams have to have some form of scoring on defensive turnovers or they're going to have a hard time. So a lot of things to fix. It's going to be a tough stretch. I'm curious to see, kind of who those guys are that really step up and lead the team and try to get things either back in the right direction from an effort standpoint. Even if the wins don't follow, you'd like to see better effort, kind of on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, both. But you're going to have some guys step up and really lead there. And then the one person that I thought we kind of had that was coming on in that department was Minifield, and he's been out not a lot of minutes these last few games, and I'm not 100% sure what's going on there, if it's off the court issues. That's kind of been my understanding, but nothing official that I've seen as far as what's been going on there. So that's hurt us as well, because he did provide a little bit of a leadership spark, and so we haven't had that the last few games. And so just kind of been a tough overall week for Arkansas men's basketball, and I'm hoping that they can kind of dig deep and find some grit and really bounce back out of it, even if it doesn't account in wins, just not as many embarrassing losses, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. And the road doesn't get any easier with Texas A&M coming to town on Tuesday this week. But when you look at it, one thing I noticed during this Florida game that we had a pretty bad problem of was when we would have good defensive possessions against Florida, get them late in the shot clock, we'd bail them out with a foul late in the shot clock. So even if we did have a good defensive possession, we just erased that when we give them, fouled them and put them to the line. And so I think, even Musselman said this in press conferences, this year's team is not going to be the defensive team that we've been used to seeing in the past, that Arkansas has been known for these previous two seasons. So I think it's something that we're going to have to, like you said, we're gonna have to figure out how to score more points and then get those stops, at least one or two, to where we can at least keep ourselves in the game and not be losing, by 22 points or 30 points. We haven't put out a good showing in the SEC yet. Closest one was that Georgia game. We're still off by 10. And, A&M's going to be coming in here off of a high, taking down Kentucky this over the weekend. So they're going to be coming in feeling pretty good about themselves, sitting up towards the top of the SEC with Tennessee. So, this is a team that it's not going to be an easy task. And the way Arkansas is playing right now, I don't have much hope that we're going to get a victory, even though it is home for Arkansas. That's just the reality right now. Until they can show me that they can win these SEC games, when I look through our schedule, I don't see many wins there unless we figure out things like maybe we get a win against Missouri, maybe. But when you look at some of these other teams we have to play, we still got to play Ole Miss, we still got to play Tennessee, ranked teams that are pretty solid.
Really good.
And we still got Kentucky as well. So there's not any easing up in the schedule at all. If we had any chance, it was probably Georgia and Florida were some of the easier teams to play in the SEC. So they're really going to have to dig deep, and, they're going to have a heart-to-heart moment, figure out something, like Seth said, somebody's going to have to step up. Tremont Mark can't do it all by himself. He's been a guy that it seemed week in and week out is trying to step up. And, we mentioned earlier in the season, his isolation play was really hurting Arkansas, but right now that's what's really keeping Arkansas in these games is he's, almost willing himself to score so that nobody else is having to try to make shots or whatnot. So at this point, I don't know where Arkansas turns from here. Maybe it's like we said, getting some of these other guys, Blocker, Pinion, more minutes to see if the effort there can help them contribute more. I don't know what the answer is right now. Like you said, with Minifield, I don't know what's going on there. I will say I did notice he played the first few minutes in the Auburn game and then didn't play the rest of the game. I think part of that has to do with he's a smaller guard, and I think he was struggling against these SEC caliber guards that were a little bit bigger body guys. So that might be a reason that he's not playing as much just because of a matchup standpoint. But there's a lot of things to fix with this Arkansas team, and my outcome for the rest of the season, I'm not super optimistic about it. I hope we finish with at least maybe 500 in the SEC, but right now I'm not even sure, just to be honest with you.
They've got to find a way to kind of get back to the intensity that they played against Duke with. They got that Duke win and played well on defense. Granted, things late in that game didn't look great either, though. It's like we got a little bit of a lead on them and let off the gas a bit, and it seems like we haven't found the gas pedal since that, about the halfway through the second half of the Duke game. Since then, it's just been gone. I don't know exactly what's going on, but we actually played pretty decent defense in certain spurts against Duke that led to offensive baskets, and we were shooting the ball fairly well. We've lost that. I don't know exactly why or how, and it might have been a fluke against Duke. I'm really not sure. I think, kind of looking back, it definitely probably was. But you would think that you're gonna have nights here and there where everything does kind of click a little bit, and you do, have big wins. That's what this team has kind of looked like. That okay, yeah, we're going to have a loss that we probably shouldn't have, but then we're going to turn right back around and have a win, against somebody really good that we might not should win either. That's kind of how this team's felt, and then somehow we've regressed even from that this last week and a half. So not sure. Obviously the potential is there for them to turn this thing around, and that would be very Musselman-esque if he finds a way to get it done. And I'm rooting for him and have faith that it's possible. However, I don't think that what's happening right now is the same. A lot of people are saying, this has happened the last couple of years. Kind of. I don't remember us getting beat by, 20, 30 points in your first three SEC matchups. I think they were more like 10 to 15 point losses at most in some of those early struggles of the last couple of seasons where they were able to kind of bounce back from that. And just the effort, it just seems different to me, even compared to a couple of years ago. So what people are trying to compare this season to, the slump or whatever they want to call it. But it's definitely a possibility to turn things around. We've got a ton of talent. It's just finding a way to get the right guys on the floor with the right effort, with the right plays. And I still think we're just having a hard time getting that combination of ingredients correct at the right time. So who's to say if it does happen? Who's to say if it doesn't? I'm not sure. Could end up being, one of the worst years we've had in a while. And, Arkansas fans, we're quick to celebrate and want to extend people for life whenever they're winning, but then everybody turns on them pretty quickly when they're not. But we talked about it an episode ago. It's okay if Musselman has a bad year. Sometimes the transfer portal might bite you. Sometimes it might bless you. And maybe this year's the year that we don't have as much success out of it as years previous. But I still think that he does have a pattern for success more often than not. And it just may not work out this year, but I don't think anybody needs to panic if we end up missing the tournament and running him off, essentially, whether it be a firing or him get so frustrated with fans or something that he wants to find a new job. I mean, that has happened in Arkansas history before. So anyways, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent there, but don't lose faith in these guys. There's a lot of great kids on that team. They just need to find a way to have some consistent effort from here on out, or it is going to be a very long year.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. They need to get back and find that effort in that team that was the team that, even though it was preseason, beat Purdue. That team that beat
Yep.
Duke. Played that type of intensity, type of game, that effort. That's what we need to see to get back on track, if you will. And so hopefully Musk can figure that out. He's the guy that if anybody will, but at this point, I don't think it's a him issue with coaching. I think it's, these guys, like we said, the effort or that cohesion. Something is still off there, and they're still working on trying to figure that out. But we'll see what happens this next week as you get Kentucky coming to Bud Walton, and we'll see what happens there. Then we'll jump back over to Arkansas women's basketball, where they went on the road and had a big win where they beat Alabama 77-59, and that was led by a big game by Samara Spencer with 31 points. Michaela Daniels had 16, and Sailor Poffenbarger had 9, leading rebounders for this team. Sailor Poffenbarger and Samara Spencer with 14 each, Miriam Dowda with 12, and Jenna Lawrence with 4. In this game, Arkansas shot 40.3%, going 29 out of 72 from the field, shooting 25% from the three-point line, going 6 of 24, and 72.2% from the free throw line, going 13 of 18. So great bounce-back win. This team is really figuring out how not let one game roll over into the other. And, we saw several times Arkansas women's basketball last season, they would get on a roll, but then suffer a loss, and then they lose 2-3 in a row, back to back. Well, you see this team right here, they had that close loss against Mississippi State. Well, they went on the road, figured out a way to turn it around and get back in the winning column. And again, this is without Talia Scott. We mentioned that before, but people were picking up the pieces. Samara Spencer getting herself a double-double with 31 points and those 14 rebounds. So you love to see that. Another note for this game, Miriam Dowda set the record number of blocks from women's basketball here at Arkansas with 10 in this game. She had tied it late in the game and then got that 10th one to get that record. So fantastic things happening here for this women's basketball team.
Yeah, that's a double-double too, actually, technically, if you want to look at it that way. So she almost had a triple-double, I think. But anyways, getting 12 rebounds and 10 blocks is kind of unheard of, especially in like a women's basketball game. So the effort there is just off the charts from her. So like you said, the way that they've been able to kind of pick up the pieces and pull some, everybody's chipping in, literally. Sailor Poffenbarger only had 9 points, but she's out there on the glass again. We talk about it week in and week out, and then obviously Samara Spencer probably had her best game of the year in this one. So everybody kind of stepping up when Talia Scott's out and finding ways to get wins. This is a big win. That's huge. Shot the ball pretty well overall, kind of across the board there from the line, from three, and just from the floor. I think they did a little bit better job of kind of getting some more interior shots up. And they sometimes are pretty heavily three ball reliant. And this game, they were able to kind of get inside a little bit more. The matchups were better. So I think that helped as well to kind of keep this lead as much as it was. So great win. It's cool to see some of the accolades going their way. And to your point, for them to be able to bounce back after kind of a tough, frustrating, close loss against Mississippi State and get this win against Bama, who's not horrible by any stretch of the imagination. That's definitely a good thing to see and can kind of build you some more confidence going into the next couple of games.
Yeah, no midweek game for them this week, so they got a tough test coming up where they're going on the road to play LSU. So, that's going to be a tough test for this team to see kind of really how they stack up towards that upper echelon of the SEC, if you will. So, hopefully we can compete with this team and, make it a close game. And then it'll be kind of gauge ourselves from there as we kind of finish out through the SEC. Most likely in the SEC, you're going to have South Carolina and LSU vying for that number 1-2 spot, but 3 through 5, I think that's where Arkansas could finish with the potential of what we're seeing so far. Especially when you look at getting when we get Talia Scott back, no word on when we will, but once she gets back with these other players starting to step up and really find their rhythm, that could only help and benefit Arkansas down the line. So big things there. We'll jump over to Arkansas Gymnastics, where gymnastics season is back. And they had their first meet on January 12th, last Friday, and got a big win here as they took on Georgia. In this meet, Arkansas won 197.150 to 196.350, so a close matchup. But another cool news about this matchup was this was Arkansas's highest scoring for a week 1 score in program history. So that was big to see this team come out, first meet of the season and just perform really well. So when you look at the individual events here, Arkansas outscored Georgia on the vault 49.225 to 48.750. Georgia outscored Arkansas on the bars 49.425 to 49.325. And then also on the beams 49.175 to 49.025. Then Arkansas got back and outscored Georgia on the floor routines 49.575 to 49.0. So great win to start out the season there for Arkansas. So your thoughts here, Seth?
It's going to be kind of like last year was. Every single matchup is tough competition in the SEC. I think last year, all but like 2 or 3 of the SEC gymnastics teams kind of hovered in the top 25. They obviously were kind of changing places with each other week in and week out, depending on who beat who and things of that nature. But it seems like every single SEC school has a fairly stacked gymnastics program. And so seeing where we stack up with the rest of the SEC is going to be an interesting thing to kind of watch this year. Early on, Arkansas is ranked the number 4 in gymnastics, week 3, top 25. So we are kind of in that upper echelon in the SEC right now. Like I said, though, dude, the competition in the SEC every single year in gymnastics is intense, and that it's starting to garner a lot of national attention too. You look back at some of the attendance records that were set last year for a lot of programs, not just Arkansas. I know we set some, but then most programs had a lot of fan attendance records set last year with I guess the national attention that the gymnastics teams are developing and things of that nature. So they're getting a lot more recognition. These matches and meetups are a lot closer than they used to be in years past. And I think a good portion of that, you got to give credit to a lot of these athletic directors around the country that are, putting a little bit more resources towards this. Obviously, they're able to advertise and things of that nature with the NIL deal. Some of these gymnastics players have big ones. Obviously, LSU. We're not even going to go down that road, but they've got a lot of popularity there in their gymnastics department. So that is doing nothing but bring good things to a lot of these schools' programs, though. I will give that all the credit with kind of where things have gone there. So that's cool to see. I think that's something that Arkansas has going for them. We've got a lot of fans that show up, and that's going to do nothing but good things for the home meetups and things of that nature. So it's going to be a fun year. It's good to get started out kind of on the right track and then get the national recognition that we do have so far. That'll do nothing but help us when it comes to, keeping things rolling in the recruiting department. So it's going to be a fun year, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, when you talk about just the level of competition in the SEC, in that same poll that Arkansas was number 4 in, counting Arkansas, there's 8 SEC teams in the top 25 for gymnastics in that poll. So that just kind of shows you what Arkansas is doing and what they're going to, have to compete against as well. So it's a big thing, and can't wait to see what they do the rest of the season. They got some good matchups coming up, or meets coming up in the next few days. A big one to look at is they go on the road to Alabama, which was ranked number 3, just one spot ahead of them. So that's going to be a top 4 matchup there, and could be a big win for Arkansas if they can pick up that win on the road. And so we'll jump over to Arkansas soccer news, where Arkansas star midfielder this season, Bay Franklin, was drafted by the Chicago Red Stars in the 3rd round and with a 41st pick. So getting the opportunity to play professionally there, that's fantastic things to hear. Glad to see Arkansas players having success. Now, I'm not sure if she's going to finish out the basketball season or go ahead and get started training for her professional career. Most likely that second option there, but glad to see things of that coming along for these Arkansas players and what the players coming out of the program that Kobe Hale's built here.
Yeah, no doubt. That's definitely an exciting time. Hurts to lose her, but yeah, I definitely completely understand going out there and seeing where the pro career can take you.
Yeah. And then we'll jump over to Arkansas softball. As not a lot of big news yet, but we're as season's getting closer, we're starting to get polls and things of that nature. So coming out in the Softball America preseason top 25, Arkansas comes in at number 8. So coming in top 10 ranked, that's to be expected with what we got returning, our big transfers we got coming in. This is going to be an exciting season for Arkansas softball, no doubt. Can't wait to see, some of these scores we talked about last year. Some of these scores Arkansas was lighting up on the scoreboard, and I think we see even more of that this year with just the offensive firepower returning and what they brought in through the transfer portal.
Yeah, I'm going to be excited to get up there for some games when the weather warms up a little bit. It's going to be fun. I'm telling you, man, that softball team, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of work their way around the polls and then end up maybe finishing the year a little higher than they started the year. They're going to be legit. Softball and baseball, you never really can predict how things are going to shake out with the way injuries can bite you and stuff, especially if you have a pitcher go down or something like that you're really heavily dependent on. But if everybody stays healthy and things go the way that I foresee, at least partially, this is going to be a fun year. There's some stiff competition out there that they're going to have to go up against this year, but man, they're going to be a fun team to watch for sure. And to your point, I think we can score runs with the best of them.
Yeah. Then you flip over to the other diamond, Arkansas baseball, coming in ranked number 2 per the perfect game preseason top 25. I mean, let's be honest, I'm not surprised with that. I don't think you are either, with just how the history behind this Arkansas program and how they consistently deviate recruits really well. So, on that recruiting piece, Arkansas has ranked the number 1 freshman class per D1 baseball. So, that adds into why Arkansas is number 2, only coming in behind Wake Forest, another top baseball program known around the country. So, I mean, none of these things surprise me with baseball, just how Arkansas is historically good at baseball. I saw somebody mention today there is a lot of hype for Arkansas baseball, especially somebody made the call out. Yeah, we've never won a College World Series since Dave Van Horn's been here. We've gotten close, but I mean, I don't think that should necessarily define a program and get you, if you will, extra credit in the polls. But I think Arkansas's ranking is justified just because of the talent we got coming back and the returning talent as well.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I mean, you see a lot of those teams that are kind of in that top 10. It's a lot of the same teams you see year in and year out that are historically some of the better ones at recruiting, that have some of the most well-known coaches that have been around college baseball for a long time. The LSUs, the Vanderbilts, us, Wake Forest, for example. I can't remember if Florida's up there or not. I think they might have been. But there's some really good ball clubs up in that top 10, top 15 that are kind of your perennials that you got to watch out for. So we've said it in many episodes before, but it's probably not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that Dave Van Horn finally can get him one. I think this team is a similar situation to last year. We had a really, really deep pitching squad, and unfortunately had a couple of guys go out for the year that definitely limited us, I believe. If guys can come in, be healthy, stay healthy throughout the year, we're probably the deepest we've ever been on the mound. There is some legitimate star power on the mound right now if everybody can kind of stay healthy. So I'm excited to see where that takes us, as well as, some guys. They've been hyping up Kendall Diggs a lot, that he's kind of taken another step in development, if you will, that he's going to be, one of the main kind of offensive firepower type guys for us this year. He's always had that kind of clutch clutch hit here and there kind of guy. And he does play pretty well in the outfield. I think he's improved there over the last season and a half. And from my understanding, he's taken a fairly substantial leap in development that you're going to be seeing this coming season. So I expect him to be, kind of a leader on the field with his play, as well as just his personality and who he is, to kind of step up and lead this team. And then you got, a plethora of pitchers that have a leadership mentality between, Brady Tygart and
Hagen Smith.
Hagen Smith. Yeah, that's who I was trying to think of. And I think there's a lot of coaching that'll get done from the players amongst themselves. You've seen it in these previous seasons as well. It's just kind of how that team runs. Dave Van Horn doesn't have to be the only one holding people accountable, because that entire team holds their self accountable, if that makes sense. So I expect nothing but the same there. And I I drink the Kool-Aid for baseball every year, and I'm never not gonna, because I love baseball. But I've got extremely high hopes. I think we're going to make it all the way. I feel that way every preseason. Maybe I shouldn't, and sometimes things derail that, and that's just kind of the nature of the game. We talked about the same thing with softball, but they set themselves up to have success year in and year out, and that's all you can ask for. Sometimes the chips fall your way, sometimes they don't, and I'm hoping that this is one of the years where they really do. I think we got a year that really could have been one for the book, stolen from us back in COVID, whenever Heston Kjerstad was on pace to break the home run record before they canceled the season and everything. And I think that really might have been a year that we might could have been able to bring the hardware home, but it didn't happen. Things happen. But I do think over the next couple of years, there's a strong chance that we're able to get one of these home. And if he keeps recruiting the way he has been, and he's kind of hitting some home runs out of the transfer portal here and there with pitching as well, with the Texas Tech pitching transfer and things of that nature, I think he's got the winning formula. It's just a matter of when it happens.
That's very true. And like you said, last year, Diggs seemed to have the knack for finding those clutch, big hit home runs that, he's known for. And, like you said, if he's taking another leap, I can't wait to see what he's going to do next year, or this upcoming season, as we're just about a month away from, first pitch of the year, with, the first week games being Valentine's Day weekend. Like we mentioned at the top of the episode, stay tuned for this weekend. We're going to be doing our live preview show from Baum Stadium, and we're going to have a special guest from the baseball team there with us. So that's going to be really cool to have some inside perspective, or inside of kind of how they're feeling going into the season. It's going to be exciting things coming up, and we'll hit some upcoming events here as we're getting ready to wrap up. Arkansas men's basketball, like we said, taking on Texas A&M tomorrow on Tuesday, January 16th at 8 o'clock. Arkansas Gymnastics is going on the road on January 19th to take on Alabama in its second meet of the season at 6:30. So like we said, top 4 matchup upcoming there. Arkansas men's tennis is getting started as they take on Illinois State at 12 p.m. on the 19th as well. Arkansas women's tennis will be taking on Bradley on the 20th. Swimming diving taking on Vanderbilt at 10 a.m. on the 20th. Men's basketball versus South Carolina on the 12th, January 20th. So maybe that's another team that we can have a chance to get a win. It's at Bud Walton. South Carolina is not towards the top of the SEC either. So, they've had a few pretty bad losses like Arkansas has. So maybe that can be a game that Arkansas can come in and get a win and really start to build off of if they can't get the win against Texas A&M. Who knows? Like we said, Arkansas will lose games they shouldn't, and then come out and win games that people don't really expect them to win. And so maybe this can be one of those games. And as we wrapped up, like we said, Arkansas women's basketball goes on the road to LSU at 4 p.m. on the 21st. So that Sunday will be a big matchup. Tune in for that one. Hopefully it's a really good game where Arkansas can kind of really show they're building this program up. And maybe we get Talia Scott back. That would be big for this matchup if she's healthy and ready to go for this one. And so, as we say, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go check out our YouTube channel. It's where we put all of our Hog Talk segments, our upcoming events coming out. That's where our live event's going to be, is on our YouTube channel. Like we said, that's going to be this weekend, and we're hoping for some great stuff, even though it's going to be pretty chilly, but we're going to get out there and get that content for you. So with that, thank you for listening to today's episode of Woo Pig Weekly, and we'll be right back here with that next week.